Welcome back to this week's episode of Mystery Garage. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. That is a Mark II, and maybe it's because Jake keeps posting Mark I content. I gotta come for you, buddy. Got some Mark II stuff coming right at you. Let's jump into it. all in good fun, I'm just kidding. Welcome back to this week's episode of Mystery Garage. And what you see behind me is a 1989 Jetta Coupe. And what we got going on here is this is a local Volkswagen guy who we've been talking for months now about him wanting to do a VR6 conversion. And he really wanted the Mystery Garage to do it, and we're happy to do so. So we're actually going to tackle this in the next couple episodes. It's not going to be a step-by-step how-to, but it is going to be a complete walkthrough of how to get a VR6 into a Mark II. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 episodes long. This isn't going to be a long drawn-out project. We got a couple things we're going to do. We're going to do the VR6 swap. Currently, the car is actually a 1.6 liter turbo diesel. So we're going to go through the steps. A lot of people have been asking me, what do you need to do to a diesel to convert it to a gas setup? So we're going to actually be doing that in this car as well. We're going to be doing a Mark III fuel tank swap. We're going to be putting in the VR6. We've got a lot of fabulous manufacturing parts to throw it in there as well. We're going to go hydraulic clutch on this car as well. Lots of cool stuff on this car. We're also going to do a brake upgrade slightly before it leaves as well. So lots of cool stuff coming at you guys. I have been working on projects just like this in the background of the channel for quite a long time. And the funny thing is they're all starting to pile up now, and I don't have enough time to get it all done for you. So we are going to be crushing out projects in the next little while. So before we start worrying about any other projects going on around here, let's focus on this one. Like I said, we're going to do this whole conversion for the VR6 into this car in, maybe 3, maybe 4 episodes, depending on how in depth we go. There might be 1 or 2, obviously engine out, which we're going to do today, and clean up the engine bay. Then we're probably going to have the engine in. We're going to have a slight wiring episode, not a full episode because wiring is pretty boring, but give you the gist of it. We'll do a fuel tank swap, then we got some brakes, and then the car's ready to go. So what we have here is, from what I understand, the history of this car, it has seen a few different engines in it. What's currently sitting in it now is a 1.6 liter turbo diesel. He's actually already sold this power plant, and so I'm going to be pulling it out today and get it ready to go to the new owner. He also on the side has been rebuilding this, and it is a full rebuild. It's got 0 kilometers on it right now. It's got some brake-in oil in it. Pretty much the whole motor was gone through, and it was kind of put back together. This wasn't by me, but it's awesome because it's basically a full package that you would pull out of a donor car. So if you had a donor car, this is more or less what you would be pulling out. So this is a perfect explanation of what it takes to get a car, or a car like this, to have an engine like this in a pretty simple form. If you guys are looking into details about all the little things that are involved with getting a VR6 into a Mark II, highly recommend that you guys check out Jake's channel. I was kind of having some fun with him in the beginning of this episode, but more or less he goes through all the different steps and things you need to consider, parts you might need, all that kind of thing. And I'll do the same thing here, but I'll graze over a lot of it. A lot more detail you're going to find in Jake's video than you're going to see here. So first things first, let's talk about the car really quick. This car is super clean. I believe it's had a respray at some point in time. And it actually has some newer seats, whether they're Mark 6, I think, seats. At first, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But sitting in them, oh man, I'm in love with these things. They have that GTI insignia and the headrest too, but they sit really comfortably. This car is a super clean example. And pretty pumped to work on it. So what we got going on here is we're going to be doing, obviously, the full VR6 swap into the car. Things we need to worry about: hydraulic clutch swap, wiring, exhaust, fuel, the whole bit, cooling as well. So we're going to jump into it today by taking off the front end, pulling the engine, cleaning up some of the engine bay. Like I said, the owner who purchased this engine out of this car is chomping at the bit to get the motor. So let's go ahead and throw it into time lapse, guys. I'm sorry, I got a lot of stuff going on today. We're not going to get into too in depth about this car right now. We'll probably do it in an upcoming episode as we talk about when we get the car ready to go. But for today, pulling that 1.6 engine out, pulling the trans out, cleaning out the engine bay, and getting going. Let's do it. All right, I think it's time for an update. Let's take a look at what I did. So she's a dirty diesel. Can you tell? Man. Anyways, everything's pulled. Diesel's a little bit easier, a lot less electrical. So it's just a little bit more components that you have to undo. But nevertheless, because this engine's being sold, I've pulled everything that's more or less going with the engine with it. So things like, you know, the accelerator cable, all the fuel lines, fuel filter housings, all that sort of stuff. I pulled it all out of the engine bay and kind of put it on the engine. So that way when the buyer brings the engine home, he has more or less everything set up to what they need. I have undone all the coolant lines, everything. I've done all the transmission, shifter linkage, all that sort of stuff is undone. I just need to do the drive shafts. I actually pulled aside the downpipe. I wasn't going to originally, but actually when I looked at this exhaust, it's pretty much one piece all the way to over the axle in the back, or where the over axle would be. So I'm gonna have to chop this off someplace underneath. There is a flex right where kind of the catalytic converter would be, so I'll probably cut it either right before or right after the flex. It looks like the flex is leaking a little bit, so I think I might cut it after the flex. He can have the flex, and then I'll put in a new one when it comes time to tying it into the VR's downpipe. So we'll keep going now. Now that everything's done on the top side, I'm gonna hop underneath. We're gonna do the drive shafts, and that's really about all that's left. Drive shafts and then engine mounts, and I'll pull off the front piece and we'll just drop it down and slide it out, and away we go. So let's get to work.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night, try to catch me howling at the moon.
And just like that, motor's out. As far as the engine bay goes, everything can kind of be cleaned up a little bit. This is all undercoated at some point. That's probably with a different motor swap. So although it looks dirty, it's actually not. It's just undercoated. It's got some dust on it, obviously, and some dirt, but it's not grease. The owner has a whole new subframe that we're going to throw in. It's all freshly painted. We're going to obviously take out all the shifter stuff because we're going to end up going cable shift, hydraulic clutch, so that's going to be removed. Subframe's going to be swapped out. We're going to pull the drive shafts for now and do a bunch of other kind of small cleanup items for now. And then we're going to start to set things up to go back in. I'm really going to try and make this a fairly seamless job, meaning that we're going to keep moving along. Very little breaks in progress. But what I do need to do now is this engine needs to be picked up hopefully today, so I need to actually blast off this trans and separate the two, because the owner is just taking the engine, or the new owner is just taking the engine, and the transmission is going to be sold to another party. So again, we're going to separate the stuff off and get going with that. Okay, so there we are. Engine is separated, intake, downpipe. Everything that's needed for the engine is on the engine. Transmission's over here, everything's separated. Looking good. I did a little bit of a cleanup. I gotta do a bit more of a cleanup, but yeah, here we are. Engine more or less is ready to go in, but there is a bunch of prep I need to do before we get to that point. One, As you guys can see over here on the counter, I have a ton of the Fabulous Manufacturing setup stuff for engine mounts. So we've got to throw those on the engine. We need to throw in the front bar when we put it in, which is a pretty cool piece. Then we have the hydraulic clutch setup. I still need to put in the cable shift. So like I said before, we need to pull out all the old linkage, pull out all the old engine mounts, but since we're using a different subframe, it's not really a problem. I'll go ahead and bolt that stuff right up to the new subframe. I am going to do a bit of a wipe up and a cleanup of all this sort of stuff. Then we'll go ahead and start throwing the engine in. All right, so scratch that. I went and looked at that other subframe, and unfortunately it is a Mark III subframe, the one that was painted. And the kit we have from Fabulous is a Mark II swap kit. So it's got a different mount for the back of the engine. So we're gonna go ahead and keep this subframe. So what that means is I'm actually gonna roll this thing outside and power wash it. But what we're gonna do next episode is we are going to jump into the wiring, and we're gonna hook up this shifter. So what that means, again, like I said many times before, we're gonna pull out this shifter linkage. We're actually gonna put the cable shift in. We're gonna, first I'm gonna power wash this whole engine bay, make sure everything's clean and nice. And then we're gonna go ahead and put in some of the rear Fabulous mounts. So it changes that mount a little bit, changes that mount. And then also where they bolt to the engine. This is a Fabulous mount, so this one's gonna come off. Fabulous mount's gonna go on. Same thing with this one here. And then there is one on the front that is also a little bit different. And then we're gonna jump into the wiring portion. I need to roll all this out, figure out what I'm looking at. Now, benefit of this car here is it is a 89, so it is a CE2 car, so most of this should be plug and play. So I will do some sections on the wiring. Sorry, there's a helicopter going over our house right now. There is some wiring that needs to be done, but again, a lot of it's going to be plug and play into the back of the fuse box. So we'll go over some of that in the episode when we do it. We've got a bin of a couple extras, some of the cooling parts and that sort of thing. And then we're going to jump into, while we're under the dash doing the wiring, jump into doing the clutch, hydraulic clutch setup. Now this Fabulous kit is a pretty cool kit, and it's going to go underneath, hooked up to the pedal box. So all this sort of stuff, guys, you're going to see in the next episode when we move along, because the episode after that, I hope to throw this motor in. So here we go. So that about wraps us up for this week, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hope you don't mind that there's a VR6 showing up just for a couple days, a couple episodes, then we'll go back on to our other stuff. I do have another customer car coming in as well to have some pretty cool work done on it. lots of little things going on. And in between that, we're going to be hitting the track with the VR6 for a couple more track days and having a lot of fun with that. Till next time, guys, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you're not currently subscribed, highly recommend that you do for lots more content just like this. Till next time, guys, take care.